Hope you're ready for this. This is real powerful. I'm about to free us. The Bible has over 1,500 composers or writers. I'm going to show you how every single one of them composed maps of the hidden design of the earth in what is called religious iconography. This hidden design of the earth displays Antarctica's ascended 360 ice wall that surrounds the 6 patriarchal continents of men in a huge circle. The highlights of these maps that was originally left by matriarchal women was not just to highlight that matriarchs has the patriarchs of men surrounded in a circle, but to also display safe havens of matriarchs beyond the ascensions of that circle. We can identify this on matriarchal maps called Mandalas. We can also identify this because matriarchs operate in the mother aspects of magnetism and magnetics. Just like in matriarchal map iconography, in religious iconography, the habitants beyond the ascended circle are often portrayed in a personified conveyance. These personified conveyances are conveyed to be magnetic ascended habitants. This is why the pinnacle and peak of religion is ascension, because one can ascend to these magnetic habitants. A purposeful and huge misconception in religious iconography is that the sun is what is always depicted behind Jesus' head. But no, this is Antarctica ascended 360 ice wall that surrounds our 6 continents. And when we see anything outside of this circle, this is symbolizing habitants of magnetic matriarchs. This is why outside of the circle, harmony and balance is represented and profoundly highlighted. These are terra maps, and the Earth's terrain is called terra or terrain. But before the Earth terrain was called terrain, it was called terra. These terra maps were originally called retreat maps or safe haven maps. One will have to know or find out the hidden wonders of ascension and magnetism, which leads to the entry of these magnetic habitants beyond this circle. For countless centuries, countless kings and monarchs have left maps of Antarctica's ascended 360 ice wall. Biblical patriarchal men were kings and monarchs as well. They were map makers or cartographers, sailors and conquerors whose inherited abilities to deceptively conquer a people was to keep them from knowing the true design of the very earth that they walked on. One thing we can say about each continent is that colonizing took place, and along with colonizing, the colonizer left a map. Queen Elizabeth funded King James, who wrote the Bible, many expeditions of conquest. Now, people, these conquests and the Bible coincide and both go hand in hand, and it's often why you hear the term 400 years of slavery, because we, the United States, have been under the monarch of Queen Elizabeth or Great Britain for the past 400 years. Along with the conquest of the 1600s, maps of the earth was produced. Let's take a look at King James and the other 1,500 kings and biblical composers' maps of Antarctica's ascended 360 ice wall that surround our 6 continents, with habitants which always represented to be matriarchs beyond the ascended ice wall. Now, King James and King Lear, one which was a king of Britain and the other a king of Ireland, sought to unify agreed upon maps that was both truth and plain sight conjunctures, yet also maps coy enough that its iconography or cartography aspects will be hidden from the common eye. Let's read about how both kings along with Queen Elizabeth, created the maps of the 15th and early 16th century, displaying Antarctica's ascended 360 ice wall that surrounds our 6 continents. The art of exploration became an important aspect of theater in early modern England exploration. It's typically done through the utilization of a map. The map scene in Lear provides a focal point to peer into the political ventures of King James I as a proponent for peace. James both unified and divided his kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland through the use of cartography as a way to show the aspirations of a king. Lear, in dividing his kingdom between his 3 daughters, shows Shakespeare careful strategic planning on the division of a kingdom and what that means in early modern England. While the map scene in Lear forces us to look more closely at the land that is represented on the map, the scene also forces us to look how the land is represented on the map. Prior criticism has focused on the division of Lear's lands, but this paper forces us to look at how Lear divided and also how he unites. This strategy of unification and division mirrors the political strategy of James through his own division and unification tactics. This thesis will focus both on how Shakespeare represents the map in the confines of a play and how the political struggles of a king are represented in that play. The map initially represents all tangible lands in the eye of the cartographer, yet maps are not simple drawings on paper. Maps are two-dimensional representations of not only the physical land, but are also theorized to be realistic images. Geographical information can only be improved with repeated measurements over time. Cartographers are further reliant on their employment with petty-minded bureaucrats, bankruptcy, and political squabbles. Matthew Etney, cartographer. The cartographer, typically employed by another, must decide on specific details in map making that can be advantageous to himself, but also politically advantageous to his employer. Many people in the monarchy employed other cartographers to draw and render the lands belonging to the monarchy. During the reign of King James I, the king employed several cartographers, including, most importantly, John Speed, who was a prominent cartographer during the Stuart reign. Alongside Speed were several other important figures who shaped how Britain appeared on paper, both as a cartographic representation and in correspondence between high-ranking Stuart officials and those in control of the paper representation of Britain. Among these high-ranking officials was James I, who displayed a keen interest in the art of exploration. James' interests helped to residuate our attention to the way that English colonial practices in Ireland helped to shape colonial interventions elsewhere.